She cheated on me with my best friend, stole $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's suing me for divorce over our inherited property worth $1 million. How did I end up losing everything to the person I trusted most? I never thought I'd be the guy standing here, staring at my wife's phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I mean, I knew she had a sharp tongue and a bitchy streak, but I never imagined she'd be capable of what I found. It all started with little things: missed dinners, late nights, her phone buzzing constantly, but I brushed it off, convinced she was just busy with work or some new project. That was until I caught her in the act. It happened on a quiet Tuesday evening. I was coming home early from the office because I had a gut feeling. I don't know if I'd call it intuition or paranoia, but something told me to check her phone. I'd never been the obsessive type, but after the last few weeks, I'd become suspicious. I wanted to be sure she wasn't sneaking around behind my back. When I unlocked her phone, I didn't expect to see a string of messages with a guy named Tyler, my best friend Tyler. I knew they'd been close, but I didn't think it went beyond friendly banter. Turns out I was dead wrong. Their conversations were more than just friendly. They were intimate, flirtatious, filled with plans to meet up. She called him baby and he called her babe. There were pictures, her in lingerie, him shirtless, both of them giggling like teenagers. I saw enough to realize I'd been played for a fool. The worst part: she'd been doing this right under my nose. All those nights she claimed she was working late, she was with him. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I scrolled through those messages. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. My mind raced, trying to process how I missed all the signs. I had trusted her completely. We had a joint account with over $250, $0 in it, saved up over years of hard work. I'd always thought we were solid, that we were building something real. Now I saw her stealing from us, literally taking money out of our shared savings to fund her secret life with. Tyler, it was all too much. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. How could she do this to me, to us, to everything we built together? I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there staring at her phone, tears burning my eyes. I kept thinking about all the moments I'd trusted her, her lies, her fake smiles. I felt stupid for not noticing sooner. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat in silence, trying to hold it all together. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. I needed to gather my thoughts, figure out what this all meant and what I was going to do next. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the affair. It was about money, her stealing from us, lying to my face, playing me like a fool. And I knew, deep down, I couldn't stay married to someone who'd betray me so completely. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible, and I was left standing there, feeling like I'd lost everything I thought I knew about my life. The next morning was a whirlwind. I woke up with the image of her and Tyler's messages burned into my mind, replaying over and over like a sick tape. I couldn't focus, couldn't breathe right. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it half-cocked. I needed a plan, a way to get all the facts straight before I tore into her. I spent hours that day digging through her emails, bank statements, anything that could give me more clarity. What I found was worse than I expected. Turns out she'd been siphoning money out of our joint account for months. 250, zero gone without a trace, just evaporated into her secret accounts. She transferred it to offshore accounts, hidden it in investments, whatever she could do to cover her tracks. I couldn't believe it. How could she be so reckless, so selfish? That money was supposed to be for our future, for buying a house, our kids' college fund, a safety net. Instead, she was throwing it all away on her affair with Tyler. I felt a mixture of rage and despair. I kept thinking about the trust we had, how I'd worked so hard to build a life with her. And she just took everything, not just the money, but my trust, my respect. I wondered if she even cared about what she was doing, or if she saw me as some fool she could manipulate. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that I couldn't stay silent. I had to face her, but I also had to be smart about it. I wasn't going to let her spin her lies and walk away. That evening, I set a trap. I invited her out for dinner, pretending everything was normal. I wanted her to let her guard down, to say something stupid. When she arrived, she was her usual bitchy self, snapping at me for no reason, throwing insults about how I was obsessed with her phone. I played along, acting like I didn't know anything, but inside I was calculating my next move. I had all her messages, her bank info, my own plan. I was going to confront her, not just about the affair, but about the theft, the lies, everything. When she finally let her guard slip, I hit her with it. I told her I knew everything about Tyler, the affair, the stolen money. Her face twisted into a mask of anger and denial. She started lying. Of course, said Tyler was just a friend, that I was jealous, paranoid. She claimed she'd done nothing wrong, that I was overreacting, that I was just insecure. But I knew better. I had the proof. I saw the messages, the transfers. I saw her lies unraveling right in front of me. The confrontation was intense. She screamed, called me crazy, said I was ruining her reputation. She accused me of spying, of not trusting her, like I was the one in the wrong. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. The damage was done. I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was a con artist, a cheat, a thief. The betrayal cut so deep I thought I'd never recover. I looked at her, hatred and heartbreak swirling inside me, realizing that my life was never going to be the same. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and the house felt like a prison. The woman I once trusted was now a stranger, and I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I thought was solid. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to save anything, my money, my sanity, my dignity. The first step was to get legal advice. I reached out to a lawyer I knew from work, someone who specialized in family law and financial crimes. I wanted to understand my rights, what I could do about the stolen money, and how to protect what was left. In the meantime, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her messages, bank statements, the transfer records, her lies during our confrontation. I knew if I was going to take this to court or fight for the assets, I'd need concrete evidence. I also contacted a private investigator just to see if I could get any more proof of her ongoing affair or any hidden accounts she might have. I didn't trust her one bit anymore. My lawyer told me that I had a strong case for divorce, especially given the infidelity and the financial betrayal. She warned me that she'd probably try to spin it, claim I was controlling or paranoid, but the evidence was irrefutable. I was furious, not just at her, but at myself for ever trusting her in the first place. I kept replaying all the moments. I missed the signs, the times I brushed off her coldness or her excuses. I felt like a damn fool. The legal battle was swift. She filed for divorce first, trying to make it look like I was the one who was unreasonable. She claimed I was abusive, controlling, and that I'd been cheating myself, another lie. But I knew her game. She wanted to keep the money, keep the house, and get away with everything she'd done. I wasn't going to let her. I had enough evidence to challenge her claims, and I was prepared to fight dirty if I had to. Meanwhile, she kept up her bitchy act, throwing fits, accusing me of all kinds of things, saying I was a jealous, insecure man who didn't understand her. She even tried to turn the kids against me, saying I was a bad father, but I wasn't having it. I knew her real face now. She was manipulative, selfish, and entirely self-serving. The more she lied, the more I realized I had to cut her out completely. The financial side got messier. She was trying to hide her assets, but I had the bank records, the offshore account info, and my lawyer was working on freezing her assets. I knew this wasn't just about the affair, it was about justice. She had stolen from us, lied to me, and now she was trying to get away with it all. I was determined to fight her for every penny, for what was rightfully mine. I'd spent years building that money, and I wasn't going to let her walk away with it all because she decided to cheat and steal. Every day since that confrontation has been I go from feeling numb to furious, then to a strange sense of relief that I finally saw her true colors. I've learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and how easy it is to be by someone you think you know. But I also learned that sometimes you have to fight for what's yours, even if it means tearing down the person you once loved. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her take everything from me without a fight. The legal process dragged on, and I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every time I thought I was making progress, she'd pull some new stunt, filing false accusations, trying to claim I was a danger to the kids or that I was the one cheating. She even hired her own lawyer who kept throwing up roadblocks, trying to stall the proceedings or twist the facts. Honestly, it was exhausting, but I refused to back down. Meanwhile, I started digging deeper into her financials. I hired a forensic accountant to trace her offshore accounts and find out exactly how much she'd hidden. It turned out she'd moved more money than I initially thought, more than $300 in total. She'd been funneling it through multiple shell companies, making it nearly impossible to track without expert help. That was a wake-up call. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a full-blown scheme to steal from us and disappear. I also set up an account for the kids, making sure their future was protected. Despite everything, I still wanted to be a good father. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, but I was determined to keep a level head. I kept the evidence close, screenshots, bank statements, recorded conversations. I knew I had to stay calm, even when she was throwing tantrums or trying to paint me as the bad guy. One day, I caught her trying to transfer more money. I was one step ahead. My lawyer had already frozen her accounts, and I got a court order to seize her assets. That was a huge win. I felt a mixture of relief and rage. She thought she could just walk away, cheat, steal, and then lie her way out of everything. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, not just financially, but emotionally. She shattered our family, and I was determined she'd face the consequences. The worst part was seeing her try to spin the story for the court. She painted herself as the victim, claimed I was controlling and jealous, and that her affair was just a mistake. She even accused me of abusing her. Another lie. I couldn't believe how far she was willing to go to save her own ass. But I had the evidence, and I knew the truth. The more she lied, the more I realized she was a master manipulator who'd do anything to keep what she stole. At the same time, I started feeling the weight of everything I was losing, not just the money but the trust, the sense of stability. It was crushing to realize that the woman I loved, the woman I married, had been lying to me for years. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I let her get away with this? Every day felt like a battle, emotionally, financially, legally. But I wasn't giving up. I knew I had to stand my ground for myself and for the kids. Honestly, I don't think I've fully processed it all yet. Part of me still hopes she'll change, that maybe this is all just a terrible mistake she'll regret someday. But deep down, I know better. The woman I thought I knew is gone. The betrayal runs too deep. I just want to rebuild, to find some sense of peace after all this chaos. But for now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, fighting for what's rightfully mine and trying to keep my head above water. The court hearings were a nightmare, but at least I could see some light at the end of the tunnel. Every session was a brutal reminder of how much I'd lost, but also a chance to finally lay things bare. My lawyer presented all the evidence, her messages, the bank transfers, the offshore account details. She tried to deny everything, of course, but her lies crumbled under the weight of facts. The judge wasn't buying her stories. She was caught red-handed, and I could see the frustration and anger bubbling up inside her. Meanwhile, I was focusing on rebuilding my life, piece by piece. I hired a financial advisor to help me secure what was left, to make sure her schemes didn't wipe me out completely. I also had to deal with the emotional fallout. Every time I thought I was getting stronger, something reminded me of her. Her voice, a memory, a glance at the empty space where she used to sit. It was like mourning someone who's still alive but no longer part of your life. The kids were another concern. She was trying to manipulate them, telling them I was the bad guy, that I was trying to take everything away from her. But I made it clear to my lawyer that I wanted to be involved, that I wanted to protect them from her lies. I started spending more time with them, making sure they knew I was there for them, no matter what. I didn't want her to poison their minds. I'd always believed that kids need stability, honesty, and love, things she was trying to take away. One of the biggest blows came when I found out she filed a lawsuit to claim our inherited property, worth about $1 million. She argued she had a right to it because it was technically joint property, since I inherited it during our marriage. But I knew the law better now, and I had the documents showing it was an inheritance separate property. Still, her lawyer was trying to spin it, claiming I was trying to hide assets or cheat her out of her rights. I knew this was just another tactic to squeeze more money out of me, to drag the process longer. Despite all this chaos, I realized I was growing stronger. I'd spent so long trusting her blindly, but now I was learning to fight back. I started seeing her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted, even if it meant destroying us. I couldn't believe I'd been so naive, but I also knew I had to keep my focus. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, not after what she'd done. The worst part, her constant lies. She'd deny everything, then turn around and admit to some of it but claim she did it for us, that she was trying to protect the family from financial ruin. Honestly, I'd never been so disgusted. I saw her true face, greedy, manipulative, and utterly untrustworthy. It's like I was living in some twisted nightmare, and I was desperate to wake up and find a way out. But I knew I had to stay strong, for myself and for the kids. I was finally starting to understand that sometimes the only way to survive betrayal like this is to fight with everything you've got and never let her see you fall apart. The final court date came after months of chaos, lies, and legal battles. I remember sitting in that courtroom, feeling like I was witnessing the end of a nightmare I never wanted to wake up from. She was there, trying to look innocent, but her eyes betrayed her. The judge listened carefully as my lawyer laid out every piece of evidence: her affair, the stolen money, the offshore accounts, the false claims about the property. I could see her trying to spin her web of lies, but it was no use. The truth was out, and it was clear she'd been trying to manipulate everyone from the start. When the judge finally ruled, it was a relief, but also a bitter pill. She was ordered to pay back the stolen money, and the property she claimed as her own was awarded to me. The inheritance was declared separate property, and she was any claim to it. Her legal schemes had failed, and I felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't the happily ever after I'd once envisioned, but it was a start. I had my life back, or at least the pieces of it I could salvage. Walking out of the courthouse that day, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and liberation. I'd lost a lot: trust, stability, my marriage, but I'd gained clarity. I realized I'd been living in a fog of deception, but now I could finally see things for what they truly were. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. But I also understood that I was stronger than I thought, that I could survive betrayal and rebuild from the ashes. In the months that followed, I focused on healing. I sold the house, cut ties with her completely, and started putting my life back on track. I worked on rebuilding my financial security, making sure I'd never be vulnerable to someone like her again. I also made a point to prioritize my mental health: therapy, exercise, reconnecting with friends. The pain of betrayal doesn't go away overnight, but I learned to live with it. I learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what truly matters. Looking back, I see now that her betrayal taught me a hard but valuable lesson. Trust must be earned, and some people are just not worth your faith. I don't harbor hatred anymore, just a quiet resolve to be better, smarter, more cautious. I still have scars, but they're a reminder of what I've endured and what I've survived. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar knows that even in the darkest moments, there's a way out. It's not easy, and it hurts like hell, but you can come out stronger on the other side. And someday, you'll look back and realize that the betrayal, as devastating as it was, set you free to find a better version of yourself.